Now I'm going to bring a story that, quite frankly, sickened me. It's absolutely appalling. It's been claimed that a British secondary school held lessons where kids were asked if it was fair for Hamas to attack Israel, an attack that led to around 1,200 people being killed and, of course, hundreds being kidnapped. A post on Mumsnet showed a slide which said, on October the 7th, 2023, Hamas fighters launched an attack on Israel. They killed some and took hostages. It then asked children, what's your reaction to this? Is it fair for Hamas to attack? I find it utterly astonishing that anything like this is anywhere near a British school. And I'm joined now by comedian and G News presenter Josh Howie. Josh, sad times again. We speak on the same topic, the continuing creeping cancer of anti-Semitism, but now it's crossed the Rubicon and appears to be in British classrooms. You tweeted your repulsion to this, and it's had thousands and thousands and thousands of people agreeing with you. How sickening is this?
It's sickening, but it's also, to be honest, it's scary, because this is the next generation of hatred. If they're being taught this stuff, and I'm not saying teach the other side of the story, I'm just saying just teach the facts. And the fact that what they did, and it's not just that one slide, that was one of 11 slides that were part of this lesson. This was put up by a mum on Mumsnet. She's since deleted it because of all the attention that it's got. But being taught to secondary school students, it's so one-sided. It denies these other slides. They deny the Jewish connection to the land, the continued Jewish presence for 3,000 years, that Jews are indigenous to that area. It has these false maps of the area of a country called Palestine, which just hasn't existed. That's ahistorical. It was a region that was controlled by Turkey. So the way the entire lesson was framed is one that leads to, and also it also sort of cast doubt on whether Hamas are a terrorist organization. It kind of says, well, they were voted in by the Palestinian population, but Britain calls them a terrorist organization, but then Britain is a great ally of Israel, and it sort of seems to sort of cast out that they're really terrorists. Anybody who's seen any of these videos that came out on October 7th of evil, of a kind of evil that I've never would have thought possible in modern times, and certainly to see it with your own eyes, and the fact that that is not being reflected in any way with what they're teaching our students from 13 to 18 and 11 to 18. And the other thing is that what you said, the slide that you did show, where it says they killed some, that is the most insane understatement of the century.
Yeah, and of course there was a march against anti-Semitism recently, yet we've seen two-tier policing. We saw a man at Trafalgar Square who was asked to take down a Israeli flag, despite the fact that at the same locations for many, many Saturdays since October the 7th. They didn't say the same thing to Palestinian protesters, even when they clambered across war memorials. Josh, there's a poll out today as well, saying, this is from the Jewish Leadership Council, saying 80% of Jews now feel less safe in Britain than they did before Hamas terrorist attacks on Israel on October the 7th. And as an astonishing figure, 50% have less faith in the police, 64% have less faith in the BBC. And Josh, I wonder now, has this mindset, this poison, not only infiltrated the police and the BBC, but now our schools? And how concerning is that children are being taught such pervasive and evil ideas?
Well, first, the 80% who feel more scared since October 7th, I just want to know where the other 20% live so I can move there. Every Jewish, my kids go to Jewish schools. A lot of my friends are Jewish. I'm part of the community, my synagogue. That's all we talk about. And everybody has a different story of events that have happened to them. I had a man shouting me on the tube to free Palestine. There are people I know who've been attacked in America. A man was killed who's Jewish, and Paris there was someone killed. So everybody is scared, and to see, as you say, the institutions, and it's not like this poison is is suddenly entering the institution. This has been going on for arguably decades now, certainly within our universities, and now as evidenced through the school. And when you have someone like now Daniel Kebede, he is the General Secretary of the NEU, there's footage of him calling for a global intifada. Now, the last intifada in Israel resulted in hundreds of deaths, people blown up at bus stops and in cafes. And this is what this guy, he's running the union for our teachers, and he's shouting in our streets in the UK to globalize the intifada, to globalize the murder of Jewish people. And how is that not going to permeate through the rest of the institutions?
And Josh, do you think this is the case of these terrible ideas flowing downhill? We've seen in some of the most esteemed learning seats on the planet, both in America and Britain, this kind of anti-Semitic notion, the tropes seem to run deep. And now we're seeing this in schools. Is this a case of people have been taught bad ideas and they're passing them on down through the generations?
Absolutely, but it's not necessarily just tropes. I mean, if you can't even have the head of Harvard University, the president, saying that calling for the genocide of Jews is wrong, that's not a trope. That's just like out and out anti-Semitism. So, as I said, this has been a long-term project. It's been an infiltration through the far left into these institutions, and now we're seeing the results of that. Hundreds of thousands of people on the street, so many of them utterly ill-informed, using words like genocide, colonialization. You can't colonize where you come from. That area is indigenous to Jewish people. So the miseducation is terrifying, but to see it being permeated continuously now to the next generation, to see marches on the streets, to see children being taken out of schools, 13-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds out chanting in the streets. That's scary, because how can you reason with them when they're sort of caught so young within this cycle of hatred?
OK, Josh Howie, thank you very much for joining us. An astonishing story, but thanks for speaking out. Thank you very much. I just can't get my head around stories like that. I just cannot believe what children are being taught. It's completely and utterly wrong.